One of the things that you mentioned is when you got it. And what I'm fascinated by is just, how did everyone here get it? I remember when it happened for me, I took a spontaneous road trip in college. I was undecided in college on my major, and my best friend was going out to California for the summer. So I just hopped in the car with her. And that's when I started to see landforms change and people change. And I realized that there is a relationship between the physical environment and humans. And I got back to school, at the end of summer, and changed my major and got introduced to geography, and it's, the rest is history. So
yeah.
Jay, Pam, when did you get it?
Well, I've always been interested in travel and our earth and rock formations, and I'm that person on the beach collecting all the rocks and the shells and bringing them home with me. So I actually started off going to college for physical geography, because I find it so interesting. But while I was taking my intro to geography classes, I heard about GIS, and I was like, what is this? What is this GIS thing? I've never heard of it before. And, I took the intro to GIS class, and it all kind of went from there. But it was a way to combine technology and my love for geography into what ended up being my career. So,
to Pam's point, I think that's what's been focusing my drive through NERISA and trying to be a geo mentor to people and to get the word out, because I looked into hearing about GIS. I was an environmental science major thinking about being a teacher. And, I was taking environmental science classes, and then all of a sudden I felt like I just heard a whisper of GIS. And I didn't know I agree, I didn't know what that meant. And then when I finally figured out what that meant and took my first class and realized, oh, I can actually digitally show information on a map, the light bulb went off. I was always into art and science, and it just combining the two for me was such a rewarding thing. Jack, did you start in like physical sciences then? Is that how GIS came into your life?
Well, there was no GIS when I started. That's the weird thing. I was studying landscape architecture and urban design, so I have degrees in both of those. And I started reading about computers, and then I started experimenting with questionnaires, asking people why they liked certain locations better than other locations. So I spent a huge amount of my time learning all the cards, key punch cards, card sorters, all that kind of stuff. And I accidentally made a question in one of my questionnaires. I asked where somebody lived, and people filled out their addresses, and I typed them all in, and I manually geocoded all the addresses and made maps of where people lived. And the questions that I was asking is, why do you go to this shopping center versus that shopping center? And as a young landscape architecture student, I was thinking, it's the trees or the architecture or maybe even the products that are sold in the stores. But I made a discovery, which was it's all about location. And that got me into geography. I think I was about 19 years old. And because I saw these little clusters of why people went to certain shopping centers. And this had been studied, centuries before by Christeller and Loesch, looking at central place theory. People behave based on location. And that started an adventure to learn more about geography, and then started digitizing maps, trying to figure out the best location for a new town. It was called the Experimental City. And then later went to Harvard and had the good fortune of working in a lab there called the Lab for Computer Graphics and Spatial Analytics. And worked there and also did student work there. But during that experience, I really got this idea that you could automate it all. You could actually abstract and create digital geography. And that led to this idea of exploiting geography in various ways for planning decisions, environmental decisions. And as a young student, I saw the whole thing. The technology was just crap. I mean, we would get one job a day on a big mainframe computer that would cost a fortune. But the the vision of what later became called a GIS was all right there in my mind in the early days. So I was really fortunate to just, like so much of our lives, you kind of step into something like Jody took a trip, or you luck into a particular class and the lights go on. For me, I was sort of sitting in a room in November 1968 when I realized, oh my gosh, I see what this is going to do.